Hello guys, I am Cynthia Wairemo and this is Safe Space with Cynthia and welcome. Now on today's topic I'm going to discuss ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Why I'm going to do this is because I have been diagnosed with it and I feel that a lot of people might be experiencing it and may not have had the privilege of having a diagnosis, and instead they have faced everything else. Judgment, a lot of stuff. Let me just get to it. Now, ADHD is one of the most common mental disorders that we have, and it starts from childhood. So usually what happens is that it comes in twos. Usually, it can be categorized into two: inattentiveness or hyperactivity and impulsivity. But sometimes you will find that the two of them are not mutually exclusive in some cases. So for instance, you can have a problem with inattentiveness but not with hyperactivity, or you can have both. Now let's go. I'm going to start with children because usually you should notice it while by the age of 6 it should be noticeable because it's too much. There's a lot of, usually kids are inattentive, short attention span and focused, and we just leave it up to the being kids. However, it gets to a point where you notice that it's becoming intrusive, it's becoming too much, it's becoming problematic. So having a short attention span and being easily distracted. So you might notice that in class, maybe there's a lesson 30 minutes in and you're thinking, why isn't this child concentrated? It's just 30 minutes. Why can't they just give me 30 minutes? Why can't they just focus? There's something called ADHD, and with it, it's too bad. Now, making careless mistakes, for example, in schoolwork. Now, I noticed a lot of this while growing up. A lot of teachers going like, "This was just a careless mistake. This is just a careless mistake," and I would think, yeah, sure, okay, fine. I see how careless it got, but when it comes to ADHD, there'll be a lot of careless mistakes, and schoolwork won't exactly be smooth. It's not going to be smooth, which means they might even forget to do their assignments, and they might not even understand why they need to do their assignments, okay, because their attention isn't really there. I'm not saying that they're dumb, I'm just saying that they're not focused on that subject, and unless it's something that they like, then they will not focus on it the way you imagine they should. You might think that maybe mathematics or whatever is very integral, and therefore this child should understand why they need to be in class, focused, listening, paying attention to details. But with ADHD, it becomes a problem. I'm gonna go on. Now, being unable to stick to tasks that are tedious or time-consuming. For instance, I don't see how someone with ADHD might manage to do something like civil engineering. It is tedious. AF. It is tedious, which means it's a task that requires you do this, then you do this next, then you do this next. It's totally tedious, and you with ADHD, you're just going to lose it. It's just going to you're not going to focus on it. I know that because I have started to do something and I lose interest, just like that. Not because I can do it, but because I feel tired. I feel like it's taking everything in my being to do. So, appearing to be unable to listen or carry out instructions. Oh my god, I remember back in campus, and I would go to class and I would zone out. It's a 3-hour lecture, so I'm going to zone out at some point, and I would be building castles in the air. I would be on something else, and it would be, and I remember once I missed a paper and I was called in, and it was, "You don't even pay attention in class, your mind is always elsewhere, you must be on drugs because only drugs can cause this." And I thought, you are a psychologist telling me that my inattentiveness can only be due to, so that means I cannot have a mental disorder. Yeah, so you might find there's a lot of lack of knowledge, and we die because of lack of knowledge. My people die because of lack of knowledge. But way to listen, okay? ADHD is very common, okay? Very common. So do not judge every child you find being inattentive or can't do something for long periods of time. Don't get it can be frustrating. I know it can be frustrating ever being or living with me, because I know I'm going to forget a few things. I'm going to forget something you told me. I might even forget a task that I was given, not because I want to forget, but because well, it's a condition that I have. Now, constantly changing activity or tasks. When people ask me, "What do you do?" and I tell them, "I'm a jill of many trades. I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that," because I constantly change a lot of what I'm doing, depending on when or where my interest is at that point. Which means I might be good at this, but if my interest focus is not on it. I love writing, and I haven't written in years, and I used to write novels, but since I can't focus at the moment, it's become problematic, which means I'm going to start and then I'm going to lose it. I'm just going to zone out, which means, well, I'm not going to complete that task, and then I'm going to start on another, and then maybe another, and then maybe another. So it goes on. Having difficulty organizing tasks. Oh my god. I was talking to my grandma and I was asking her, since I got my diagnosis, and there are a few things you mentioned, and I wasn't in agreement with you. For instance, she told me that my report forms would read, has performed well academically, takes part in a lot of clubs and activities, however, has problems with authority, has problems taking correction, has problems with... Now let me tell you something. Yes, organization is hard. I know someone is wondering, then how did you stack your books up like this? I had to plan for it. So this is what I found used to work for me as a child, which I need to go back to. I would take a book like this, a very little tiny notebook, and I would write down everything I needed to do, and then I would prioritize them, and then I would focus on ensuring I at least do task 1 and put a tick on it, and I would be happy about it. Task 2. And that helped me a lot. But here's the thing, I was always so disorganized. My grandma is a neat freak. My late mother was a neat freak. And then when it comes to my generation, me, I am the most disorganized person in the world. So I remember my grandma telling me, there's a time I found your mother had thrown you into your bedroom with your suitcase and your clothes because you had not folded them right, and she needed some form of organization. And I remember my classmates, when they would notice my desk or whatever, they'd go like, how do you even, what is this? Because I was always so disorganized. But I didn't feel disorganized. I felt it was totally normal for me, by the way. So organization, well, okay, what I'm going to say is, if you're going to, one of the methods that you can deal with ADHD, there's no cure. If you have it, you have it, and it will go on to adulthood, and you may not get a diagnosis, you may get one. But here's the thing, routine is important. I remember what kept me focused as a child in primary school was the fact that there was routine. So there was, you do this, you wake up, and it was constantly the same. It didn't change, which means I had some form of direction. But without that kind of routine that has been planned out for me, then I will skip from one thing to the other and not get anything done. And that is one of the problems I faced while in campus, because I would procrastinate a lot. I would say, okay, I'm going to do it. Because my attention is not there, my focus is not there. Not because I do not have interest. I really want to, but I couldn't find a way to do it. So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is very real. Now here's the other thing. When I talk of hyperactivity, if you have seen me in action, people will ask me, are you drunk? Are you on drugs? Because there's no other person who's dancing and having a good time. And I'd go like, in fact, if I was on that, I would be seated down, dazed out. Because my hyperactivity comes on like this. I can be hyperactive, I can do so many things, and I can be up all night, focused on one thing. There's the other side of ADHD. You can be hyper-focused, but then that time you kind of lose yourself. Like for instance, if I focus on a book, I will lose time. I won't know what's next to me. If there's something exploding, burning, I will not notice. That is the other thing. You cannot multitask. I used to tell people, before I got the diagnosis, I used to tell people, I can't multitask. And people would go like, but you're a woman. And I'd go like, then I have a man's mind. Because if you told me to make rice and stew and this at the same time, I would be focusing here and my onions would be burning there right in front of me. If I focus on this and you expect me to be checking on something elsewhere, you're going to be very highly disappointed, because my focus is not going to be split like that. And when I split it, then nothing is going to get done. Anyways, moving on. Now let's go back to being kids, having difficulty organizing tasks, which you might find you're wondering, why can't your child just be neat? Why can't they just make their desk neat, their clothes, why can't they fold them? Because I remember when I was in boarding school, it was always, Cynthia, can you arrange your locker? It looks very bad. All the other lockers look neat. Yours just looks, it makes it look bad. And I'll go like, okay, and I'll wonder, why is it important? Again, if yours looks good and mine isn't, see, then you mind your own business, as long as I can find my stuff. However, ADHD also means that you will lose stuff a lot. Or you will be holding something and you will be trying to find it and you can't, and it's right in your hands. So yeah, let's go on. Now, being unable to sit still, especially in calm or quiet surroundings, I will not lie to you. If I have to sit down all day like this, I think I don't know, I'll have to do something. I have to down my mind. I have to, so that it stops being all over the place. And then I fidget a lot. Right now, I don't know that I'm fidgeting, but I've noticed that along the way, people who have become close to me have started to fidget, because I fidget a lot. So I noticed my friends would start to fidget, and they weren't fidgeting before. So there's a lot of fidgeting that occurs because it's hard to stay still. It's hard to be in one position. Obviously, you will notice that I'm in the hood, so there's a lot of noise, and this is my little corner of solace. So please bear with me. We'll get to doing better as we go on. So, constantly fidgeting, being unable to concentrate on tasks, excessive physical movement, excessive talking. Yeah, I talk a lot. I talk a lot. I talk a lot. Being unable to wait their turn. Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, wait, let me give you my story first. Before you go on, let me give you my story first. You see what you were talking about? This is what happened to me first. So, yeah, we interrupt a lot. The other thing is acting without thinking. I'm not going to expose myself on that, but believe in me, acting without thinking, it's impulsiveness. You're impulsive like that. For instance, just recently, I was at I should call it River Rogati, and it had rained quite a bit, so the water was running, and it was, well, let's just say it was in cool waters, and then a big tree had fallen across it, and I was thinking, I can't swim, I've nearly drowned twice, but I need to get on top of that tree. I need to sit on that tree, and it might cost me my life, and I didn't think twice about it. And whoever was it was like, Cynthia, no, stop. No, they couldn't hold me physically, so what I did is I went, got on top of that tree, I risked my life, and I got on top of that tree, and I did what I wanted to do. So yeah, we are very impulsive. Sometimes we might act without thinking. ADHD, it happens. Now, interrupting conversations. If you're my friend, you know I have interrupted your conversations. There's a time one of my friends got so mad, and she was like, Cynthia, I want you to listen to me. You're not listening to me. You're just talking. And she got so frustrated, and we had a fight, and then we made up the next day, and we still love each other. Thank you so much, love, for understanding me. So yes, I'm going to interrupt a lot of conversations. It's something that I'm working on. I'm working on when I'm talking to someone, I listen. I want to say something, and I want to say it then because I don't want to forget, because by the time they're done, I'm going to forget, and I want to say it there and then before I forget. You see where I'm going with this? So little or no sense of danger, especially as a child. I remember I did a lot of things that were dangerous. Climbing walls, playing in streams of, let's just say I did a lot of random things that were dangerous. And especially being a girl, I should have been a little more careful. But here I am, alive and well. But yeah, that happens. That can happen. Now, these symptoms can cause significant problems in a child's life, such as underachievement at school, not because they're not smart. By the way, ADHD does not mean that your IQ is low. Some of us have been lucky enough to have high IQs with ADHD, which I don't even think is a good thing, because it means the higher it is, the more disturbing your mental brain is. There's so much you want to do and think, and it's annoying. It's very annoying. So I'm not saying ADHD means you're dumb. It's just a mental disorder that has these symptoms that I have mentioned. And yes, it's going to cause a lot of significant problems. A child is going to be problematic in school. They will not be completing their homework. They'll be getting punishments every other time because no one understands, which is why I am advocating that every school should have a psychologist or a mental health practitioner who can, when you notice this, who can notice this and, figure out what is going on. Not assuming that this child is naughty, those are just wrong assumptions, and you're going to hurt that child because, one, they will feel misunderstood because they do not understand what is going on. They don't think they're abnormal, but they notice that they do not act like everyone else. How come I can't focus like A? How come I can't be quiet like B? How come I can't be as neat as C? And then you're over there mocking them like, you should do this, you should be like this. It's going to be problematic. And so there are a lot of problems that can coincide with ADHD, which I'm going to talk about on part 2. But for now, poor social interaction. Now, for instance, when you're a child and you don't understand what is going on, or you're different, you don't play well with other children, they might exclude you. You might even be excluded in games or activities because you're not what people expect or what they're looking for at that time, which means, well, it's going to be problematic, especially for the child. And of course, with this kind of issues comes the case of indiscipline. Now let me tell you something. I told you I never had a problem with my academics. I was really good, especially as a child. But I used to question authority a lot. If you tell me something and I felt it was wrong, I would question it. And of course, a lot of teachers back then, you do not want your child. Why are you questioning my authority? I told you to do this, and I would go like, why? Is it important? How is it going to help me with this? Or why are you beating this person like that? If they didn't understand your concept, then why are you punishing them for not understanding the concept that you taught? What, I would be like that, and I would get so many indiscipline cases. I would be kneeling in front of everyone during parade time because I talked back to a teacher, or I questioned some form of authority, or nearly tetem too because I felt it wasn't right. I was an activist. I still am. So anyways, this is Sex Space with Cynthia. Thank you so much for listening, and if you like what you hear in sub would be highly appreciated. And thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to your opinions, and we will continue this discussion next time. I'm feeling like I have digressed, but anyways, this is the first time, and I wasn't sure I was going to do this. I've been procrastinating forever because I was thinking, no, I need these, I need that, I need these. Then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to work with what I have, what I know, my experiences, and that should be enough. Bye. Love you. Cynthia the Maverick.